Hey everyone, I sincerely appreciate your support. If you enjoy my audiobooks, I would be truly grateful if you could subscribe to the channel. And if you'd like to support even further, you're welcome to become a Patreon member, where you can access audiobooks of novels as long as they are freely available on the internet. Your kindness and support mean so much. Thank you.
He shouted so fiercely that both anomalies froze instantly. They stared at the enraged Bai Liang and hesitantly asked, Who are you? You're asking me who I am? Look at yourselves. You were assigned to guard the stairwell, yet you're lazing around in plain sight. Are you trying to get spotted? Bai Liang didn't give them time to react. He strode forward and slapped each across the face. Thwack, thwack. Two resounding blows left them dazed. They clutched their cheeks, minds reeling. Already lacking in intellect, they struggled to regain their bearings. But Bai Liang denied them even a moment's respite. You're already bottom feeders in this company. Keep working brainlessly, and you'll never climb the ladder. Thwack. Two more slaps? As your superior, I'm ashamed. Do you think enemies won't notice you posted in such an obvious spot? Even a child could outthink you. Thwack, thwack. They shielded their faces, but each attempt to process the humiliation earned another strike. Soon, coherent thought became impossible. If you're going to guard, do it right. Hide where you won't be seen, then regroup. The president sent you here because he trusts you. Don't disappoint him, understood? Bai Liang considered continuing but held back. Their skulls might as well be bricks. Why yes, sir. We'll fix it immediately. We won't fail again. Too disoriented to realize they'd been psychologically dismantled, the anomalies scrambled away, terrified of further slaps. My eyes. I can't believe this. Dante leave? Let him KFC you some more. I set up my recorder for a battle, but Bai Shen solved it with slaps. Face-slapping God has ascended. No words, just respect. Bai Lian's absurd tactics stunned not only the anomalies but also the stream viewers. Never had they witnessed such audacious humiliation. Civilized problem-solving. Bai Liang watched the fleeing anomalies and dusted his hands off. Turning to Jianran, who stood baffled, he said, Let's keep climbing. This, resolved? Just like that? Jianran's face mirrored utter confusion. She'd braced for combat, but these anomalies proved intellectually deficient. A few slaps and lies had shattered their resolve. RO Epsilon. Are these really corporate employees? How did the president entrust such fools? She grimaced. Once I control the shares, I'll purge this incompetence. They ascended to the third floor, initially uneventful. The president's lackeys aren't as sharp as I feared, Bai Liang mused. Suddenly, a white silk ribbon lashed down from the ceiling. Bai Liang jerked his head up. Two pale, rotting figures grinned down, their ribbon coiling like a serpent toward him. Some brains after all. He sidestepped effortlessly. Another anomaly lunged at Jianran, but she dodged. Fools? You think your plans impress me? A cruel laugh echoed behind them. The two slapped anomalies had returned, eyes bleeding hatred. You'll pay tenfold for those slaps, bastard. They'd regrouped with reinforcements. 4 against 2 advantage, anomalies. Jianran, handle the 3. I'll take this one. Can you manage? She frowned. 3 anomalies were manageable, but Bai Liang, a rookie, worried about me. He smirked. She rolled her eyes. Don't flatter yourself. It's professional concern. His calmness reassured her. Whoosh. The 4 attacked as 1. 3 surrounded Jianran, the 4th charged Bai Liang, claws screeching through air. He. Like this, it taunted, black teeth bared. Bai Liang stood motionless, hands in pockets. Then, the air above him ripped open. A colossal eye materialized, the dead eye. The anomaly froze mid-lunge, smile dying. What is that? ZZZZT? A violet beam erupted from the eye, vaporizing the creature instantly. Silence. Tomb-like stillness gripped the stream chat and corridor alike. Even Jianran and the remaining anomalies halted, staring at Bai Liang in shock. A moment. Killed? Users, in panic, mouths agape. Where's the promised battle? I just went to the bathroom and missed everything. It's over? No way. He brought a bag. What's wrong with Bai Shen entering a dungeon with a bag and wiping everyone out? Someone explain what was that eye earlier? New ability. You just went to the bathroom? That's Bai Shen's skill. In the field, away from home. Can't even play in the same dungeon as this guy. Delete him. Now I see why Bai Shen rushed into the class change dungeon. Wait, maybe I still don't get it. The screen drowned in a tsunami of chat messages. A single anomaly obliterated by a player in seconds. Could you believe it? No one would have dared imagine this before. Yet here they were, witnessing it firsthand. The kicker? Bai Liang was technically a newcomer, fresh from a class change. This was a newcomer? Not only the viewers, but even Jianran and the 3 anomalies were stunned. They stared at Bai Liang, seemingly forgetting they still needed to act. Bai Liang hadn't forgotten. He glanced at the motionless trio, and his dead eye unleashed 3 violet beams. By the time the anomalies snapped back to reality, it was too late. Sizzle. Under the violet light, the 3 anomalies turned to ash. Jianran, oh. She froze, lips parted but silent. Suddenly, she recalled her earlier words to Bai Liang. Can you handle it? Now, the question wasn't if he could handle it. What's wrong? Bai Liang frowned at her constipated expression. Jianran looked up, studying him oddly. Are you truly a newcomer who just joined the company? According to records, he was a fresh graduate weak on paper. But Bai Liang shattered all expectations. He was unfathomably strong. Jianran had to admit, that beam from his eye, she couldn't have stopped it. As team captain, you can view all employee data, right? Bai Liang countered. You checked it yourself, didn't you? Jianran bit back her retort. Still, Bai Liang's power gave her confidence for their next move. Earlier, she'd worried his weakness might jeopardize their mission. Now, she might be the liability. Can you use that skill freely? She pressed. Of course not. Bai Liang shook his head regretfully. 4 beams max, then it needs to recharge. The annihilation ability was devastating but limited. Its energy reserves allowed 4 shots before requiring a lengthy cooldown. Jianran's brow furrowed, then relaxed. Understood. Such restrictions made sense, otherwise, it'd be absurdly overpowered. Did we expose ourselves? Bai Liang scanned their surroundings. Jianran smirked. Remove the didn't from that question. Hope I get an intelligence reduction skill next time, Bai Liang muttered. These anomalies, though bound by dungeon rules unlike dimension-hopping players, weren't fools. As proven earlier, any less prepared player would have died instantly. Need to be more cautious next time. As they ascended to the next floor, Jianran noticed Bai Liang lagging behind. Scared, she teased, though his longer legs easily outpaced hers. Nonsense. Bai Liang straightened solemnly. I'm guarding our rear. If those lobby guards ambush us, I'll take the hit first. Jianran chuckled at his theatrics but said nothing. Near the 4th floor, she halted abruptly. Why stop? Bai Liang frowned. Jianran's voice turned grave. I just remembered something. The board cultivates an anomaly to punish disobedient employees. Controlled by executives, she explained. Now, the president likely commands it. Bai Liang raised an eyebrow. Strong. Yes. Jianran nodded. Beyond my capabilities. What about me? She carefully examined Bai Liang and, recalling both the monster's ferocity and the abilities he had demonstrated earlier, said, if your abilities are still active, then you can handle this. But, she trailed off, though the meaning was clear. If Bai Liang's abilities were no longer in effect, there was no doubt he wouldn't be able to overcome that monster. Bai Liang fell silent. He had a general sense of the monster's level. It was stronger than Jianran, yet could be dealt with using destruction. So, it must be either level 2 or 3. Seeing that Bai Liang remained silent, Jianran shook her head and said, let's go. Perhaps the council members who spotted him early have already taken him away. Even if we do encounter him, I will find a way to resolve this problem. Jianran, who dreamed of owning a stake in the company and still hoped to vie for power against President Yu Haoming, clearly wasn't limited to such methods alone. All right. Bai Liang nodded, and they continued on. Suddenly, in the darkness, a sharp whistle of wind came from behind. Completely unexpected. Attack. Jianran reacted instantly. Her expression changed as she spun around abruptly and shouted, watch out. An unknown monster had appeared behind Bai Liang. Its crimson tongue, like that of a snake, lashed out toward the back of his head, as if it were about to strike its target. Bai Liang, as if oblivious, merely lifted his gaze to look at Jianran. Could this be the end for brother? Damn, an attack. This monster doesn't respect the rules of combat. That's it, Bai Shen, it looks like you're out of the game. Don't worry, brothers, Bai Shen surely anticipated this. Remember, he's extremely powerful. I think that's it. The ability isn't working. Even an enhanced player wouldn't react in time. The spectators watching the scene broke out in a cold sweat of terror. They stared at the screen, as though they had already foreseen a bloody scene where Bai Liang's head would be pierced. But then, at that very moment, a crack appeared at the back of Bai Liang's head, and from it emerged an eye with a vertical pupil that instantly fired a violet beam. SHH. That strange creature instantly turned to dust, leaving not even a trace of ash. Jianran, equals? Why are you all staring at me? Am I supposed to say something funny? Scroll down. If playing well means this is a bug. Guys, didn't he say he could only use it 4 times? Now he's used it again. Something's off. He tried to hide it, didn't he? Don't think I didn't notice. You activated it, right? Activated, so it's a bug? You're all so annoying. No recharge bug? Apparently, there's something I don't know. This is the special ability of the new class, the Great Mage Mentor. Yes, the one above is right. What happened? Bai Liang looked at the stunned Jianran in bewilderment. Jianran widened her eyes, first looking at Bai Liang and then at the strange creature reduced to dust behind him. She then gasped, didn't you say that this ability could only be used 4 times? If she remembered correctly, Bai Liang had already exhausted all 4 attempts when they were on the 3rd floor. Indeed, it can only be used 4 times, he nodded without denying it. Then what is this? Jianran asked with suspicion, hardly believing a word he said. I said that I could fire only 4 beams at once, after which I'd need to recharge, right? Bai Liang tried to explain. Jianran's reaction slowed for a moment before she nodded. He had indeed said so before. But I never mentioned how long the recharge takes, did I? Isn't 1 second enough for a recharge? Jianran slowly parted her lips. Just listen to what you yourself are saying. Alright, everyone heard that, right? Bai Shen didn't even close the door. How can that even be considered closed? Is that really a profession? You call that a professional skill? How can it not be considered a profession? The cover-up profession is a profession too, right? Ha ha ha, guys, I just got back from Mi Gao's stream. He was about to explain how Bai Shan will dodge this, but right in the middle of the stream, his throat was clamped like by pincers, with tilde Nigerian Nairai. The world of strange creatures is simply astounding. The stream was definitely worth watching, guys. Those highbrow debates made us sick. Now watch as Bai Shan tears it up. So, do you understand? Bai Liang gestured with his hands, looking at Jian Ran, whose expression grew increasingly odd as he tried to make her understand. She tried to comprehend, but her processor overheated, and her head began to spin. If you can't understand, then you need not. Though I don't know what's going on here, I've finally understood something, Jian Ran said with a conflicted expression as she looked at Bai Liang. What exactly? Jian Ran, I've finally figured out why you've been so audacious from the very start. She had long been astonished by Bai Liang as a newcomer. Why would he choose to be so heartless from his very first day at the company? Not only did he disregard everything and become a freeloader, but he also went after Lin Shuking and even dared to get intimate with the daughter of a board member. Now that she saw his strength, everything became clear and logical. Jian Ran even thought that Bai Liang had been too cautious. If it had been her, on her first day, she would have taken charge. With such power, how could one even remain merely an employee? She would have immediately taken down the board, dealt with Yu Haoming, and assumed control of the company, becoming a major boss. All right, let's go. Jian Ran took a deep breath, calming her overflowing emotions somewhat, and addressed Bai Liang. Yet, as soon as she turned, she halted once more. A question suddenly occurred to her, and the more she thought about it, the more she felt something was amiss. If Bai Liang is so strong, why did he even decide to work in a team with her? Suppose he's using her. And when he gets a share of the company, won't he eventually decide to take on the role of boss? After pondering this, Jian Ran looked at Bai Liang seriously. What's wrong? Bai Liang asked, noticing her look. Jian Ran frowned and softly inquired. Suppose, if we acquire a share in the company, will you allow me to sign the documents? She was anxious, yet she believed that Bai Liang would probably agree. With his strength, the company illusion was clearly not worthy of him. Moreover, his previous indifference toward company affairs suggested he wasn't truly interested. I won't allow it, Bai Liang replied, shaking his head without a moment's hesitation. Jian Ran, that's not what I wanted to hear. Could you answer differently? All right, I don't know what to do with you, Bai Liang said with a slight helpless smile as he shook his head. Jian Ran smiled in return. It seemed her earlier sacrifices had not been in vain. That stubborn slacker simply couldn't resist temptation. At the same time, she felt relieved. If Bai Liang truly desired a share in the company, she definitely wouldn't be able to compete with him. Their strengths were simply too disparate. Fortunately, that 20-minute massage had completely worn him out, and at that moment, Bai Liang approached her and whispered in her ear, "You silly, how could I not let you sign? When I become the big boss, I'll draft you a lifetime employment contract. Don't worry, such terms will be exclusively for you." Ha 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 ha, guys, I can't take it anymore. I'm dying of laughter. What the heck? Are you even human? You can't call him Bai Shan anymore. From now on, he should be called the devil. He's a real devil. Oh my, what capitalist views. I thought Bai Shan would go down now, but it turns out I was mistaken. He's still the same Bai Shan, unchanged in the slightest. How about this? Only you can sign this contract. Jian Ran's eyes widened as she looked at Bai Liang with an expression of complete bewilderment. The night grew deeper, the crimson haze enveloping the entire dungeon thickening with each passing hour. The dungeon was swallowed by fog and uncertainty. The sudden dungeon mutation was a scenario players had never encountered or even heard of. They had no idea how to act correctly. But the famous time management master Eik once said, "Doing nothing is better than making a mistake." In uncertain situations, taking action meant walking into a dead end. Thus, most surviving players chose to stay inactive, remaining in their rooms. They decided to observe. If nothing strange occurred, they could act later. Of course, a small group ventured into the crimson haze to explore. Waiting for death wasn't their style. Better to risk it all than sit idle. Who knew? If they cleared the dungeon, they might gather enough experience to create a guide they could sell for a fortune. Business center. In the top floor office, Yu Haoming sat in his chair, his expression unnervingly calm. None of the tension or frenzy typical of a power struggle showed on his face. He glanced at the corporate executives present, including Zhu Angshi. Those old farts on the board still won't budge. Yu Haoming's voice dripped with frost. To seize control of Feigning Group, he had lurked here for 10 years. 10 years of relentless effort to lull the board's vigilance and amass influence. Tonight's operation had been planned meticulously. If it failed, he'd be cornered. Failure was not an option. Victory was mandatory. Boss, those stubborn old bastards won't yield. My people tried everything, Zhu Angshi replied, eyes downcast, voice trembling. Fine. I never expected you to break them. I know them better than you. Yu Haoming waved dismissively. If coercing the board members into surrendering their shares were easy, he wouldn't have initiated this coup. These men wouldn't fold without extreme pressure. Alpha Nigerian Naira Beta Epsilon S. Brute force was necessary. Yu Haoming turned to a shadowy figure beside Zhu Angshi. Tell the decryption team to work faster. If they haven't cracked the code by midnight, they're worthless. The figure nodded. Understood. Another subordinate spoke up. Boss, we've detected something unusual. What? Yu Haoming frowned. Jianran entered the building. She's on the 4th floor. Heh. Yu Haoming sneered. What can one woman do against us? After a pause, his tone turned playful. Release that creature. Don't let her near the archives. Though he'd once pursued Jianran, he wasn't foolish enough to let sentiment interfere now. On the path to power, Yu Haoming would sacrifice anything, especially a woman who'd rejected his advances. As his subordinates departed, Yu Haoming gazed through the window at the swirling crimson mist. His eyes darkened with calculation. We must finish before the Dead World's agents arrive. Once it's done, victory is ours. Since hearing Bai Liang's words, Jianran's mood had soured. Why the long face? Noticing Jianran's wilted demeanor, Bai Liang tilted his head. Jianran stayed silent. Maybe consider what you just said before asking. A lifetime employment contract? Had he lost his mind? Didn't you want this? Bai Liang blinked innocently. You didn't ask me to change it. Don't blame me. Jianran's silence deepened. Another word, and she'd explode. The upper floors seemed unguarded. Bai Liang and Jianran ascended to the 5th floor unchallenged, the corridor eerily quiet, a calm before the storm, hinting at unseen peril. Sure enough, upon reaching the 10th floor, a monster appeared. Is this your company's pet? Bai Liang stood at the threshold, squinting at the shadowy mass ahead. Jianran tensed, ready to fight until she remembered the man beside her was far more terrifying. She nodded. It existed before I joined. No one knows its origin, but everyone fears it. In my time here, it's killed over 100 employees, even 2 executives. No wonder Jianran feared it. She'd witnessed its brutality firsthand. It followed orders mindlessly, slaughtering without mercy. As they spoke, the crimson haze parted, revealing the monster's form. An angelic face framed by chestnut brown hair tied in a ponytail. 4 arms, 2 pristine as lotus petals, 2 muscular and blood red. 4 perfectly proportioned legs. A speckled armor adorned with rust-like patterns reeking of blood. Bai Liang stared, perplexed. A centaur. The creature had a human torso and equine lower body, a textbook centaur. This was the corporate monster? Bai Liang expected something grotesque, a gaping maw, oozing flesh. Instead, it looked almost handsome. What? Not your type. Jianran mocked, noticing his stare. Bai Liang shook his head. I'm no princess needing a white knight. 0 interest. The white horse and the prince exchanged smiles. I see, so the white horse and the prince are 2 different entities. Guys, step aside, I like something unusual. Low emotional intelligence, I'm a pervert. High emotional intelligence, I like something unusual, lol. RRRR. The human horse creature let out a terrifying roar upon spotting Jianran and Bai Liang. Its hands gripped a long sword tightly, and with a powerful stride, it charged toward them. As the sword slashed through the air, the crimson mist twisted, and the wind's howling turned into a deadly melody. Do we have a chance? Jianran asked Bai Liang. Of course. Bai Liang nodded. Yet, he didn't use vanishing. He was far too intrigued by the creature's sword. It emitted a faint glow, a clear sign it wasn't just any weapon. Leaving it behind without examining it would be a crime. With that thought, Bai Liang reached out his hand. Hand it over. Skill activated. In an instant, the silver armor adorning the humanoid creature vanished and appeared in Bai Liang's hands. Staring at the silver armor now resting in his grip and then at the cool human horse creature. Bai Liang, Jianran, may go, live chat, Sigma. Something seemed off. What did you just take? Jianran widened her eyes, staring at Bai Liang. Bai Liang twitched his lips and quickly tossed the silver armor aside. Looks like I grabbed the wrong thing. No worries, let's try again. Meanwhile, in the real world, Mi Gao was live streaming and commenting on the scene. Guys, watch this Bai Shen operation. I guarantee this monster won't last a second. Do you believe me? From my years of watching streams, I'd say this monster is pretty powerful. Normally, even players who have undergone reincarnation wouldn't be able to handle it, but for Bai Shen it's just a junior brother. Ayo. Mi Gao, his face filled with excitement, passionately narrated the events unfolding on the screen. His enthusiasm was through the roof. Ever since witnessing the events in Mirror Castle, he had become Bai Shen's most devoted fan. Only those who had truly witnessed miracles could understand the power of the one who created them. Mi Gao had personally seen Bai Shen perform completely unbelievable feats ever since the New Year's dungeon. One thing became clear to him, Bai Shen was nothing like any other player he had ever encountered. Other players struggled to survive in the mysterious world, but for Bai Shen, it was like a vacation. The monster is attacking. Let's guess, will Bai Shen use his beam ability, or does he have something else up his sleeve? He raised his hand. What's he about to do? Does he have another skill? Oh, he really took the monster's armor? Van de Fa. Wait. Armor. Mi Gao, who had been commenting with excitement, suddenly realized something was wrong. Armor? The monster had lost its armor. Could it be? At that moment, the camera zoomed in on the now armorless monster, and all the viewers watching the stream widened their eyes. Mi Gao's face instantly paled. His years as a streamer had trained him well. He immediately realized that something was seriously wrong. This was definitely very, very wrong. He quickly moved his mouse, trying to shut down the stream. But before he could do anything, a red pop-up appeared on the screen. Inappropriate content detected in your stream. Penalty issued. Broadcast banned for 24 hours. The stream was banned. Mi Gao, wait, it wasn't me. Bai Shen did it all. Mi Gao stared at the blocked stream, utterly devastated. I was just sitting at home, and suddenly a problem from a dungeon hit me. Clearly, Bai Liang was the one who caused all this chaos, so why was his stream the one getting banned? How did this even affect real life? Meanwhile, in Bai Liang's stream chat. Ha 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 ha, I'm dying? Mi Gao's stream just got banned. I just came from his stream, it's true, they really banned it. Mi Gao is absolutely speechless. Does Bai Shen not even spare his own fans? Incredible! Bai Shen's abilities are so powerful they can even affect reality. Bai Shen really knows how to entertain his fans. I'm staying here forever. I just went to the bathroom. Did I miss something epic? Bai Liang had no idea that his ability had silenced 2 entire worlds. And Jianran was silent too. Hand it over. Bai Liang activated his skill again. Luckily, this time he didn't mess up, and the magnificent long sword landed in his hands. His actions instantly enraged the creature. It swung its 4 arms, charging at Bai Liang in a fit of fury. Bai Liang, completely ignoring it, didn't even glance at the monster. His attention was solely on the sword. Above his head, his dead eye materialized, instantly firing 3 annihilation shots. SHH. 3 shots. Not too many, not too few, just enough to show respect. The monster was struck and, in the blink of an eye, crumbled into dust. Jianran, watching all of this, widened her eyes. Could it really be this easy? That was the strongest entity in the company? It seemed she had severely underestimated Bai Liang's strength. This guy was far more terrifying than she had imagined. Jianran shuddered slightly. Did this mean, if she stayed with him, she really would be stuck working for him her entire life? Meanwhile, Bai Liang was examining the sword in his hands. It was incredibly long. If stood upright, it was about the same height as Jianran. The blade was entirely silver, covered in intricate engravings, with 2 deep grooves running along its center blood channels. Faint glimmers of light flickered across its surface, and Bai Liang could feel an icy aura emanating from it. This was no ordinary sword. Suddenly, Bai Liang recalled how, in the 5th estate, Winnie's pen could transform into a weapon, and that book. Both of those had been artifacts. Could this sword be one too? But was it comparable to Winnie's 2 artifacts? This is an incredible artifact that can perfectly unleash the power of anomalies, Jianran murmured, staring at the long sword in Bai Liang's hands. Bai Liang glanced at her and curiously asked, are there different levels of artifacts? You don't know. Jianran raised an eyebrow in surprise. She couldn't quite understand why Bai Liang, someone this powerful, was asking about something so basic. I'm a newbie, isn't it normal not to know? Bai Liang replied, his expression as if stating the obvious. Newbie. For some reason, those words started to sound increasingly pretentious. Jianran let out a deep sigh and explained. Of course, artifacts have different levels. The lowest rank is B tier, while the highest I've heard of is SSS tier. The sword you're holding is at least an A tier artifact. If it were sold, its price would be astronomical. Upon hearing this, Bai Liang nodded thoughtfully. He turned to Jianran and asked, if we have a pen that turns into a snake and a book that can transform into any object, what tier would those artifacts be? Jianran paused, then answered. Such artifacts are exceedingly rare. From your description, they'd likely be above A tier. So, Winnie's 2 artifacts are at least S tier? Damn it! Had I known such treasures existed in that dungeon, I'd have taken them. The sword in Bai Liang's hands suddenly felt less appealing. He glanced at Jianran, who met his gaze. Were you going to give it to me? Before she could finish, Bai Liang stashed the sword away without a second thought. With feigned innocence, he asked, what were you saying? Jianran's expression remained neutral. Nothing. Let's keep moving. The Centaur Knight seemed to be the final guardian, as the 11th and 12th floors were eerily quiet. When they reached the 12th floor, Bai Liang froze. Before them stretched a long, pitch-black corridor. The walls, painted in light-absorbing darkness, bore twisted, indistinct murals that emanated dread. This place felt alien compared to the floors below, a portal to another realm. Was this floor decorated by the same company? Bai Liang muttered, eyeing the nightmare-inducing hallway. Jianran shot him a "You're questioning architecture in a monster-infested dungeon. Look. The archives ahead, she said, her voice tense. The air thickened with decay. Faint sobs and moans echoed as the murals grew more menacing. Don't stare, they're hypnotic, Jianran warned. Bai Liang averted his gaze, feeling a slight dizziness. Ugly as hell, he remarked. Jianran sighed. Just avoid looking. Mental attacks aren't my specialty. Bai Liang smirked. A fissure split his forehead, revealing the dead eye. FSSSH, FSSSH, FSSSH. Violet annihilation beams vaporized the murals. No dizziness now, he declared, admiring his handiwork. Jianran stared, dumbfounded. Who uses ultimate skills to redecorate? Bai Liang, if it won't let me look, I'll just make it lose its effect, LOL. Other players, abilities equals survival. Bai Shen, abilities equals interior design. 6/10. Can't top this madness. In the staff dormitory, players peered through crimson-hazed windows. Suddenly, a violet beam sliced through the fog, blasting a hole in the wall. A player nearly lost his manhood as the laser seared between his legs. What the hell? Back on the 12th floor, Bai Liang strolled past the now blank walls. At the corridor's end stood a massive metal door labeled Archive. Can you open this? Bai Liang asked. Jianran nodded, producing a palm-sized bagua wheel. It'll take 30 mina. Click. Bai Liang inserted a plain key into the lock. The door swung open. Jianran's jaw dropped. How? Universal key. Ever heard of it? He winked. Inside, the stench of blood and rot overwhelmed them. The floor squelched with gore limbs, decaying corpses, and glass tanks of grotesque experiments filled the room. This is the company's archive? Clap, clap, clap. Suddenly, applause echoed from the corridor beyond the door. Bai Liang and Jianran turned simultaneously toward the sound. An exceptionally handsome man approached them slowly. Dressed in a black suit, his jet black hair was meticulously styled, save for a disheveled lock dangling over his forehead. His deep-set eyes, hidden beneath sharp brows, fixed intently on Bai Liang and Jianran. Several men in suits followed him, each exuding a sinister aura. Their smirks dripped with mockery, like predators eyeing prey. Even Bai Liang couldn't resist remarking, elegant, so elegant. That appearance, that aura. If not for being slightly inferior to Bai Liang himself, he might have mistaken the man for the ultimate villain. You're complimenting them. Jianran curled her lips, baffled by Bai Liang's thought process. These were enemies? Bai Liang glanced at her with a faint smile. You don't understand. Competent villains are rare. This one deserves praise. If he guessed correctly, this man was the mastermind behind the corporate coup. Yu Haoming, president of Phantom Corporation. He'd come because they had unlocked the archive door he couldn't open. The moment Bai Liang and Jianran entered the building, Yu Haoming had decided to manipulate them into accessing the archives. A classic mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind ploy. Clap, clap, clap. Yu Haoming applauded as he neared, his tone dripping with mock admiration. As expected of you, Jianran. Your methods are truly formidable. Even that monstrosity couldn't stop you. What surprises me most is that you actually opened the archive door. All my efforts to let you succeed weren't in vain. His voice carried irony and a hint of astonishment. When Jianran and Bai Liang had first ascended the stairs, he'd noticed them but dismissed their threat, focusing on coercing board members to reveal secrets. Only when his own men failed to breach the archives did he take the duo seriously, luring them into opening the door so he could swoop in and claim victory. Thank you for unlocking this door for me. Yu Haoming waved a hand, signaling his subordinates to eliminate the pair. As gratitude, I'll ensure your deaths are swift and painless. Boss, do we kill Jianran too? Asked Zhuangxi hesitantly. After all, Yu Haoming had pursued her for a decade. Licked her boots this long, only to kill her now? As a subordinate, Zhuangxi had to confirm lest Yu Haoming later regret it and blame him. Yu Haoming shot him a frigid glare. Did I stutter? Kill them both. His calm tone made Zhuangxi shudder. Not daring to argue, Zhuangxi's body bloated grotesquely, flesh rotting as he transformed into a monstrosity. Die. A massive, stench-filled maw burst from his chest, sharp teeth raining down toward Bai Liang and Jianran. You brought this on yourself. Don't blame me, Yu Haoming muttered, eyelids fluttering shut to hide his turmoil. Though resolved, watching her die pained him. Better not look. Let her live on in my memories. Thud. The sound of tearing flesh made Yu Haoming flinch, yet a strange smile crept onto his face. Haya. He inhaled deeply, exhaling slowly. It was over. He opened his eyes. And froze. What? Zhuangxi was dead. Yu Haoming stared at his subordinate's severed head, then at Bai Liang and Jianran completely unharmed. His smile vanished? No, it didn't vanish. It simply migrated to Bai Liang's face. Did you celebrate too soon? Bai Liang taunted, eyeing the stunned Yu Haoming. Hearing this, Yu Haoming jolted back to reality, glaring hatefully at Zhuangxi's corpse. How could a key third-tier minister lose to a mere captain and a rookie? Useless trash, he roared at his remaining 4 subordinates. What are you gawking at? Kill them together. The 4 exchanged terrified glances. Yu Haoming hadn't seen what happened, but they had. Zhuangxi, unleashing full power, had been annihilated instantly by that rookie. A violet beam from Bai Liang's eye had obliterated even a third-tier minister. They stared at Yu Haoming as if he were insane. Together? Do you even know what we're facing? This thing isn't human. Cowards? All of you. Yu Haoming snarled as his men hesitated. Suddenly, he grabbed 2 subordinates and hurled them at Bai Liang and Jianran. The remaining man tried fleeing, but as he turned, a cold light flashed, severing his legs. Ah! His scream echoed through the archives. Having sacrificed his underlings, Yu Haoming spun and fled without hesitation. Only a fool wouldn't run. Anyone who could obliterate Zhuangxi instantly meant one of these 2 possessed terrifying power. Staying meant suicide? As the saying went, better others die than me. Survival demanded sacrifices. Live, and there's always another path. Die, and it's over. I underestimated him. Had he not met me, he might have succeeded. Bai Liang mused, impressed by Yu Haoming's ruthlessness. But brilliance alone wasn't enough. Bai Liang activated his dead eye, unleashing an annihilation beam at the fleeing Yu Haoming, now nearly at the archive exit. Sensing imminent doom, Yu Haoming glanced back just as the violet light struck. No, he screamed, raising his suit like a shield uselessly. The beam pierced through fabric and flesh alike, reducing both to dust. He was dead. Yu Haoming had vanished without a trace, not even ash remaining, completely erased from this world. Oh, Bai Liang suddenly slapped his forehead, clicking his tongue in annoyance. Damn it, had I known it'd end like this, I wouldn't have used annihilation. Should have just punched him to death. Do you always play with your enemies like this? Jianran raised an eyebrow, her tone laced with disbelief. Bai Liang shook his head. Not like this. I just wanted to scatter his ashes. Annihilation leaves nothing behind, what a waste. Jianran fell silent. She raised a thumb, staring at Bai Liang with newfound respect. Not only had he killed a man, but he'd also wanted to desecrate the remains. Even Satan would envy such ruthlessness. Meanwhile, the 3 surviving board members were paralyzed with terror. Yu Haoming's death meant they were next in line. Especially the man whose legs Yu Haoming had severed. He suddenly realized the pain in his stumps had dulled. Trembling, they crawled toward Bai Liang on their knees. Spare us, sir. We were forced into this. Why yes, that bastard Yu Haoming planned everything? We're innocent. Let us live, and we'll serve you faithfully. The 3 anomalies groveled without dignity. To them, dignity? What was that? Survival mattered far more. Watching this spectacle, Bai Liang scoffed. If I'd known it'd come to this, I wouldn't have bothered. We're all just earning a few $100, why gamble your lives over a corporate coup? Do you even know who you are? Jianran glanced at him, sensing deeper meaning in his words. Internally, the board members screamed, we didn't know we'd meet a monster like you. Mistakes in this life don't matter. Just correct them in the next. Bai Liang had no interest in prolonging their farce. A single shot silenced all 3. After holstering his weapon, Bai Liang suddenly turned with a sly grin. Now, let's invite our next guest. Another guest? Jianran froze, then followed his gaze. A shadow lurked by the bookcase, clutching a document. Who's there? Her pupils contracted as she shouted. Her heart sank. The shadow held not just any document, but the evidence of feigning group's board crimes. With this, they could blackmail the directors into signing the stock transfer agreement? Wait, no. This was all for Bai Liang's benefit now. She'd become a mere pawn. The realization calmed her. Bai Liang's earlier words rang true. Why risk lives over a few hundred yuan? The stock struggle no longer concerned her. Ha! The shadow chuckled darkly, its gaze lingering on Bai Liang. Those mismatched golden eyes glinted with curiosity. To think such power lurked here. Even Yu Haoming fell to you. Impressive. But I'm no weakling like him. You can't stop me from leaving. Confidence oozed from its voice, as if everything remained under control. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. Yu Haoming hadn't been the true orchestrator this shadow was. If I'm right, you engineered this power struggle. Bai Liang narrowed his eyes lazily. Correct. The shadow admitted freely. Bai Liang smiled faintly. You're not one of this dungeon's anomalies, are you? The shadow didn't answer. Revealing its nature was off the table. No time for games. Until we meet again, try not to die by my hand next time. The shadow produced a cube-like object, an S-tier teleportation device preset to a safe location. This artifact had emboldened it to retrieve the evidence despite Bai Liang's display of power. Leaving so soon, Bai Liang raised a finger, slicing the air. A violet line split reality like torn film, expanding into a purple-hued dimension that engulfed the archive. The shadow activated its cube too late. When teleportation failed, panic set in. Why? What is this? Why can't I escape? Frantically reactivating the cube proved futile. The artifact was powerless here. It's over. The shadow abandoned attempts, dread rising. Was this its end? Try again. Or don't. Bai Liang taunted. The shadow glared at his smug expression. Don't celebrate yet. Killing me won't be easy. It theorized this purple realm drained massive energy. Bai Liang couldn't sustain it long. Survive the onslaught, outlast his stamina, then escape. Suddenly, Bai Liang's dead eye fired an annihilation beam. The shadow dodged sideways. The beam grazed its arm, vaporizing part of the wall. Slow enough to evade. Relief turned to sneers. 2 of those might have killed me. But now, 2. Bai Liang frowned thoughtfully. The shadow opened its mouth to mock and choked. Behind Bai Liang stood his perfect duplicate. Both versions' dead eyes glowed menacingly. The shadow's eyes bulged. What? Staring at the second Bai Liang, the black shadow froze in shock. Was this really necessary? How utterly boring. Couldn't you at least turn this off? You. Not only did the shadow look puzzled, but even Jianran, standing beside Bai Liang, seemed confused. She stared at the 2 identical Bai Liangs, her mind reeling. Which one of you is real? She couldn't tell. To her senses, both seemed genuine, but how was that possible? Could a person split into 2 identical copies? What kind of ability was this? Bai Liang glanced at her, the corner of his lips quirking up. What? Want to try doubling your happiness? Jianran rolled her eyes. Happiness? Seriously? When she didn't press further, Bai Liang didn't explain. Strictly speaking, both were his true selves. His consciousness controlled both bodies simultaneously. The sensation was surreal, dual perspectives, duplicate abilities, twice the power. Ha 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 ha, I must admit, you're impressive. The shadow suddenly burst into laughter, its fear replaced by boundless envy. I've never seen a newcomer like you here. Are you even human? If you weren't an outsider, I'd think you were some Mingdu anomaly's bastard child. As it rambled, Bai Liang slowly raised his hand. Don't move. The shadow barked, clutching the documents tighter and sneering. You're strong, so what? You're one step too late. The evidence is mine now. Want it? Then obey my orders or I'll tear it all to shreds. True to its threat, Bai Liang halted. But his reaction wasn't what the shadow expected. Confusion flickered across the shadow's face. Shouldn't Bai Liang be negotiating by now? Why did he still look so calm, utterly unafraid of the evidence being destroyed? Under its scrutiny, Bai Liang finally spoke. One step too late. The evidence is yours. Is that true? His lips twitched, murmuring something too quiet for the shadow to catch. But the shadow realized Bai Liang genuinely didn't fear its threat. Why? The answer came instantly. The documents clenched in the shadow's hand vanished. Its eyes bulged as it stared at its empty palm. Where are the documents? Gone along with its lifeline. Panic set in. Frantically, it scanned the room until its gaze landed on Bai Liang's hand. There, clutched casually, was the stack of evidence. The shadow trembled, horror dawning. How? Impossible? Any more tricks? Bai Liang flipped through the papers, then glanced at the shattered shadow with mock curiosity. Before it could answer, he snapped his fingers. Almost forgot. He raised his hand again. Hand it over. Whoosh! A Rubik's Cube, the shadow's escape tool, materialized in his palm. The shadow gaped at the cube, then collapsed to its knees. Defeated. Utterly. Jianran couldn't bear to watch. Enough, she said quietly. This is excessive. The shadow's ears twitched a spark of hope. Just end it. Shadow, if you can't say something nice, don't speak at all. I'd rather suffer a little longer before dying. You're the real monster here. Bai Liang glanced at Jianran, and obliged. Whoosh! A violet annihilation beam lanced out. The shadow disintegrated. Now, let's find those board members, Bai Liang said cheerfully, waving the evidence. Jianran pressed her lips together, silent. The board members were locked on the top floor. Bai Liang and Jianran located them swiftly. The old men initially resisted until Bai Liang presented their crimes. One by one, they signed the stock transfer agreements. Once done, Bai Liang thoughtfully drafted a new employment contract for Jianran. Her hand shook as she signed, not from fear, but exhilaration. Congratulations, player, Bai Liang. Cleared D-rank mutated dungeon, Crimson Knight. Clear time, 1 hour, 1 minute, 23 seconds. Completion rating, SSS. Rewards, rule points, title, capitalist, S-rank item, Book of Illusions X1. As the system voice faded, Bai Liang finally relaxed. What a hassle. Done, he sighed, wondering when he'd randomly acquire another overpowered skill. Jianran approached, eyes blazing like a cornered wolf. Work hard. Bai Liang patted her shoulder, grinning. She narrowed her eyes. What does that mean? Planning to become a hands-off boss? He nodded shamelessly. Congratulations, you guessed right. As a reward, you can ask one favor before I leave. Really? She barely dared to hope. Of course. His smile turned sly. Condition, I take something from you. Jianran. Should have known. Goodbye. Bai Liang waved as a countdown timer materialized. Jianran reached out, suddenly remembering. Wait, what are you taking? He vanished mid-sentence, leaving only a shimmering afterimage. And in that moment, a breeze brushed her thighs. Bai Liang, you damn bastard. Her roar shook the corporate building. Somewhere in the void, a surprised voice echoed, shit. Grabbed the wrong thing. As the world folded around him, Bai Liang stared at the flimsy fabric in his hand, lips twitching. He wasn't to blame. He'd meant to take an ordinary item. Was this cloth enchanted or something? Ahem. Bai Liang is a serious man. Once he confirmed that the lace fabric wasn't a special item with unique properties, he immediately stuffed it into his backpack. What else could he do? The game space was limited, and it was unclear whether the fabric would start emitting an unpleasant odor. So, stowing it in the backpack was the safest option. If he encountered its owner again, he could return it. If not, well, fate had other plans. Don't do this again, understood? Bai Liang glanced at his right hand and sternly warned himself. Then, he opened his attribute panel. Player, Bai Liang, Avatar. Age, 19. Class, Shadow Sovereign, Unique. Skills, Initial Genetic Enhancement, Hand-to-Hand Combat Mastery. Completion frequency, 6 times. Titles, New King, Equipped, Savior, click for details, Friend of Anomalies, click for details, Speedrun Master, click for details, Capitalist, click for details. Note, unequipped titles provide the player with a 20% attribute bonus and half the title's effects adjusted from prior data. Bonuses scale with title tier. Rule points, 75,000. The panel had grown increasingly lavish. Compared to its humble appearance when Bai Liang first entered the mysterious world, it was like night and day. If other players saw his current stats, they'd likely go into shock. But, weren't the rule points a bit too abundant? Bai Liang's gaze dropped to the latest rule points tally, and doubt flickered in his eyes. The last time he'd checked his panel was during the 5th Estate dungeon. Back then, his rule points had exceeded 2,000. The Mirror Castle dungeon, due to its bizarre random skills, had been so chaotic that Bai Liang hadn't even noticed his points. But if memory served, Mirror Castle had rewarded him with 10,000 rule points. That brought his total to 30,000. Adding the points from completing the transformation quest and the mutated Crimson Knight quest 40,000, he should have exactly 70,000? So where did the extra 5,000 come from? As Bai Liang puzzled over the surplus, other players who had just cleared Crimson Knight suddenly realized their own rule points didn't add up either. Oh well, more is better than less. Bai Liang shook his head, refusing to dwell on it. After all, it was free points, why sweat the details? He continued reviewing his rewards, as 2 titles remained unexamined. Title: Speedrun Master, unequipped, 20% attribute bonus, 50% effect bonus. Acquisition method: clear the Mirror Castle dungeon in under 60 minutes. Title effect: gain the ability to teleport short distances, 100 meters, ignoring external conditions. Cooldown: 30 minutes. Bai Liang had earned the Speedrun Master title during Mirror Castle, but he hadn't checked its effect then. The dungeon had ended so abruptly it felt unreal, too fast, even. But this effect is overpowered. Bai Liang marveled at the title's description. A 100-meter teleport, ignoring all obstacles? If he ever found himself restrained, he could instantly escape. This wasn't mere speculation. Some dungeons did trap players at the start. After some thought, Bai Liang decided against equipping Speedrun Master. The new King title's passive revival was still more critical. Though artifacts like the Witch Doll could substitute, they required activation. The new King's effect was automatic, a lifesaver in emergencies. Plus, unequipped titles still granted half their effects. A few inches shorter? Bai Liang wasn't sweating it. Title: Capitalist, unequipped, 20% attribute bonus. Acquisition method: earn an SSS rating in the Crimson Knight dungeon. Equip effect: lend rule points to other players under a borrow 9, repay 13 scheme. No bad debts. If a borrower nears death, their items, skills, and rule points will be seized. Items/skills convert to rule points. Whoa, upright arrow. Bai Liang's eyes widened. Capitalist lived up to its name. He could loan points to others with a 44% interest rate, and if they died, he'd claim everything. Zero risk. But I'll need to screen borrowers carefully. Newbies might default. He recalled his own destitute early days. Better target seasoned players, those with second classes had lower mortality rates. But how to find them? As he pondered, a yellow exclamation mark blinked in the corner of his interface. Player Bai Liang, you have completed your class change and are now an honored professional. The professional trading plaza is unlocked. Access anytime. Note: attacks between players are prohibited on the plaza. Violators will be punished. Enter the trading plaza? Yes/no. The professional trading plaza? Perfect timing. Bai Liang smirked. This was his answer. Moreover, he truly had something to bid farewell to. For instance, the 94 transformation books obtained in the transformation dungeon, as well as the sword he took from the centaur. As for the magical cube, Bai Liang wasn't planning to sell it yet. The effect of this item was similar to that of the Speedrun Master. Though not as powerful, teleportation still required pre-placed markers. It had one advantage: a remarkably short cooldown. Bai Liang checked. After using the magical cube, it only required a brief recharge period of about 10 minutes. This was twice as fast as the Speedrun Master, granting excellent efficiency in critical moments. As for the Book of Illusions. Item: Book of Illusions. Level: S. Effect: when used, this item can create various illusions based on the user's intent. These illusions are virtual but can block perception, making them indistinguishable from reality. After reviewing the Book of Illusions effects, Bai Liang felt this item held tremendous power. In certain dungeons, its utility would be nothing short of extraordinary. Before entering the exchange, Bai Liang decided to take one more action. He needed to equip the capitalist title. The exchange explicitly prohibited players from attacking one another, eliminating any risk of conflict. At this moment, Bai Liang didn't need to worry about unexpected dangers. He equipped the title and discreetly hid it to avoid displaying it above his head. If someone spotted this title during a transaction, it would look utterly absurd. He selected the option to enter the class exchange trading center. The moment Bai Liang confirmed his choice, a radiant glow erupted before him. Massive gates of light materialized. A luminous white path, like a bridge, stretched from the gates and terminated directly at Bai Liang's feet. Staring at this spectacle, Bai Liang couldn't suppress his awe. He stepped forward onto the path, inching closer to the gates with each stride. Upon reaching the gates, Bai Liang strode through without hesitation. As the light flared, he instinctively shut his eyes. Only when the brightness dimmed did he reopen them. Before him lay a sprawling street. The road beneath his feet was paved with unknown stones, their clatter echoing with every step. Glancing around, he saw shops and stalls lining both sides of the street, each styled uniquely. Their displays shimmered with eye-catching goods, many radiating an otherworldly glow that screamed value. The street teemed with a massive crowd, every individual exuding an aura of power. Their faces were calm and relaxed, a stark contrast to the desperate souls Bai Liang encountered in dungeons. The sea of people writhed like a colossal dragon. Though no sun hung in the sky, the entire street bathed in daylight like illumination. Bai Liang stood amidst the flow, feeling as though he'd returned to the bustling atmosphere of the real world. Yet here, people wore armor, protective gear, and even mechanical exoskeletons. Bai Liang spotted several such individuals. No wonder this was called the trading center for professionals. Those who reached this place had to be among the elite players. Their achievements in the mysterious world far surpassed anything novices could fathom. Bai Liang looked utterly ordinary here, no armor, no title hovering above his head. Where could he set up a stall? He scanned the endless street, his expression contemplative. At that moment, a player with twin swords strapped to his back and half his face obscured by a black mask noticed Bai Liang standing motionless. His eyes instantly lit up. Clearing his throat subtly, he weaved through the crowd and approached Bai Liang. Hey, newbie. Let me introduce myself, Shizaoke, Level 2, veteran of the trading center. Bai Liang, deep in thought, was interrupted. He sized up the unexpected interlocutor. Black mask, high-tech armor sans helmet, twin swords. The ensemble screamed cyberpunk. A friendly smile adorned his face, but Bai Liang knew better than to trust anyone here, even those playing the fool. With that in mind, Bai Liang smiled back. You don't happen to have an older brother named Shidake, do you? How'd you know? Shizaoke blinked in surprise. You know my brother. Lucky guess, Bai Liang shrugged. Shizaoke chuckled awkwardly, swiftly changing topics. First time at the trading center, right? Need a guide? I can show you around. Not to brag, but I know this place like the back of my hand. He thumped his chest, though his darting eyes betrayed nervousness. Noticing this, Bai Liang's lips quirked. I want to set up a stall here. Know how? A stall. Shizaoke eyed Bai Liang with renewed interest. Definitely a newbie? Why else would someone ask about stalls immediately upon arrival? Clearly, Bai Liang had just changed classes. If he'd cleared 30-odd dungeons, how much loot could he have? Did he even have over 10,000 points in his account? And even if he had items, what value did low-tier dungeon drops hold? Novices might buy them, but veterans wouldn't glance twice. But since Bai Liang had a goal, Shizaoke saw no reason to enlighten him. People like Bai Liang were easy marks? Ahem. Of course I know. Shizaoke beamed. To set up a stall here, just find an empty spot. Materials are cheap at the general stores. But if you want a proper shop, head to the center and apply. They'll assign you a plot. He conveniently omitted one crucial detail. In the trading center, stalls and shops alike required a trading license. Without it, your goods wouldn't be protected by center rules ripe for theft. Shizaoke meant no real harm. He simply wanted to trick the newbie into losing a few items. Players were attack-proof, but who'd stop him from swiping unprotected merchandise? Plus, he had an escape skill. Few could catch him. But, brother, you should know to open a shop, you need to verify assets of at least 50,000 rule points. To ensure Bai Liang wouldn't attempt heading to the Trading Association Center, Shizaoke quietly added, if you don't have that many points, just find a spot and set up a stall. Sell whatever you can. 50,000 rule points? Got it. Bai Liang nodded and asked, where's the Trading Association Center? Shizaoke blinked in surprise. Is he serious? Why go there? He asked skeptically. Bai Liang replied matter-of-factly, to open a shop, obviously. Didn't you say that's where you rent plots? Shizaoke, you have 50,000 rule points. He couldn't believe it. Bai Liang wore no decent armor, let alone weapons. How could a rookie have 50,000 rule points? If he did, why wasn't he buying gear? Did he plan to tackle dungeons barehanded? Dungeons grew harder with each tier. Surviving without equipment or skills was impossible past the early stages. Was this guy just bluffing? So what if I have 50,000 rule points? Bai Liang confirmed with a nod. Shizaoke's doubt deepened. He pointed ahead. Walk straight. The largest building at the street's end is the Trading Association Center. Thanks. I'll give you a discount when my shop opens. Bai Liang smiled. Shizaoke forced a laugh and hurried away, muttering, I've got errands. You'll manage. He didn't go far, lingering nearby to observe. Is he for real? Bai Liang noticed but ignored him, striding toward the center. The deeper he went, the stronger the players around him became. Soon, a colossal structure loomed ahead, 4 towering pillars carved with eerie reliefs, its obsidian walls radiating gravity. A golden sign above its gates read, Trading Center. The crowd here was denser, more disciplined. Players queued orderly to enter. Bai Liang joined the shortest line. From a distance, Shizaoke's eyes bulged. He's actually queuing? Damn, does he really have 50k rule points? A rookie with that stash? Unthinkable. Unless, he's a top player incognito. Shizaoke shuddered, relieved he hadn't crossed Bai Liang. Offending elites here was risky, but encountering them in dungeons? Deadly. He slipped away, swapping masks to avoid notice. So I'm the real rookie, and you're the big shot? Since when do elites cosplay newbies? The process was seamless. Inside the trading center, Bai Liang verified his rule points, received a land contract and business license, then hired builders. Efficiency here was staggering, no bureaucracy. For 1,000 rule points, a pristine white shop materialized on the eastern street within half an hour. Conscience Store. Bai Liang admired the black-lettered sign against the white facade. The emphasis? Conscience. Now, he'd teleport directly here instead of the main gate. He placed transformation books on the shelves, useless to him since players could change classes only once. A notice by the door declared, loans available? Short on rule points? Borrow here? Transformation books for sale. Settling behind the counter, Bai Liang waited. He wasn't worried. In the mysterious world, countless players struggled for rule points. No one else offers loans. I'm the monopoly. Loans? They'll really lend rule points here. As predicted, a player soon paused at the sign, skepticism etched on his face. He stepped inside and froze. Transformation books. Dozens. Hundreds. His jaw dropped. It was like stumbling into a vault of gold ingots. Transformation books were rare, typically consumed immediately after dungeon clears. Only specific dungeons dropped extras, and even then, scarcely. Rarity meant exorbitant prices. The cheapest cost 1,000 rule points. This stockpile? Worth over 100,000. This guy's a heavyweight. A monster in disguise. The player who had initially doubted the loan system now stood utterly convinced after witnessing the sheer volume of transformation books. Never assume transformation books were worthless. In the mysterious world, countless players sought to avoid risk. For instance, members of established factions could purchase these books to bypass the dangers of class change dungeons, entirely especially useful for recruits lacking the strength to survive such trials. Without Bai Liang's intervention in his own class change dungeon, the mortality rate would have been catastrophic. At best, a third of participants survived. Some dungeons wiped out entire groups. This scarcity made transformation books highly sought after, often exceeding supply, and Bai Liang's stockpile? It marked him as a hidden powerhouse in the player's eyes. Gee, great boss. Can I really borrow rule points here? The player stammered, visibly awed. Of course. Bai Liang assessed the player a post-class change veteran with decent gear. Their equipment alone could fetch a hefty price. The player brightened. See, can I borrow 10,000 rule points? He'd eyed an item but lacked funds. Why risk dungeons when loans existed? Write an IOU and fingerprint it, Bai Liang replied. The player scribbled eagerly, already plotting to default. What's the worst they can do? Bai Liang accepted the note, checked the name, and transferred the points via the player panel. Done. Check your balance. The player's eyes bulged. Thank you, great boss. Regret hit instantly. Should have asked for 20,000. 100% monthly interest. Repayment in 2 months, Bai Liang added. Missed the deadline, and the system would confiscate all assets, skills, rule points, items. Defaulting wasn't an option. Why yes, I'll repay on time. The player fled before Bai Liang could reconsider. Word spread. Soon, players flooded the shop. Elder, we heard you lend rule points. I need 10,000, 20,000 for me. Bai Liang disbursed 70,000 rule points swiftly. Latecomers groaned, missing their golden opportunity. Let's see how my investments perform, Bai Liang mused, watching them leave. Defaulters would learn, debts always collect. Player space. Bai Liang stretched and initiated dungeon matching. Dungeon search in progress. Match found. Players queued, 35/100, 100/100. Entering dungeon prepare. Darkness swallowed him. A flicker of light revealed a silhouette, a prisoner in a bloodied jumpsuit, muttering. Why am I here? My name's Chang. They caught me. No escape. They'll kill me. Trust no one. Not even friends. Bloodstained scenes flashed, Chang's repeated captures, his desperation mounting. The vision faded. Skill extraction in progress. Extraction complete. From lie to reality, the more people believe your lie, the easier it becomes reality. Begin your performance, deceiver. Skills, from lie to reality. Bai Liang froze, not expecting a skill to drop immediately upon entering the dungeon. But this skill, how to put it? It was strong, but not overwhelmingly so. It allowed lies to become reality if enough people believed them. The problem was, how to make others believe the lies? This'll be a challenge, Bai Liang smirked faintly, interest flashing in his eyes. At the last moment before entering the dungeon, he hadn't forgotten to switch his title to Rookie of the Year. For dungeon runs or revives, this was highly convenient. He'd change it back after clearing the dungeon. The darkness began to dissipate, revealing a faint point of light. The glow was dim, illuminating only 2 or 3 meters around Bai Liang. It gradually spread through the darkness, growing fainter until it touched an old, rusted iron door. Bai Liang now found himself in a prison cell. As the environment clarified, he frowned involuntarily. The air reeked of damp decay, sinister and horrifying, suffused with utter lifelessness. Bai Liang stepped toward the iron door and noticed something odd. Glancing down, he saw his wrists and ankles shackled. His clothes had changed too. He now wore a prisoner's uniform. He'd become an inmate. But Bai Liang paid this little mind. Peering through the door's gap, he saw a dark corridor outside. Dim bulbs flickered along gray walls, heavy iron doors, and paint-stained floors, creating an atmosphere of dread. Across the corridor, another cell held a player also in prison garb, peering out. Their eyes met briefly before both withdrew. Bai Liang inspected his cell thoroughly, as Chang had described in the dungeon's background. No escape routes whatsoever. No windows, only a dim bulb deepening the sense of desolate isolation. Strange symbols and drawings covered the walls, graffiti left by former inmates, oozing hatred and boundless terror. Staying here long could drive anyone mad. Thud. Bai Liang punched the wall. It resonated. Dully reinforced steel lay beneath. If they filmed the Shawshank Redemption here, even Andy would have given up, he remarked, eyeing the impregnable walls. With security this extreme, trying to chip through with a tiny hammer would wear it down to a needle before making progress. Outside, the livestream chat. Viewers flooded in upon the stream notification. Seeing Bai Liang already in a dungeon, comments turned incredulous. What cursed hour is this? Don't you sleep, damn it? Was about to hit the sack when the stream alert popped up. Who's streaming at oh? You again? Relentless dungeon grinder? Did you come to the mysterious world for grocery shopping? Is this guy even human? Starting to doubt it. Fine, no sleep tonight. All hail Bai Shan. Viewers couldn't comprehend. Bai Liang had just cleared a dungeon. Yet here he was, diving into another. Even farm donkeys got more rest. Meanwhile, Bai Liang lay on the bunk, eyes closed, strategizing. His speedrun master title allowed instant teleportation, but unfamiliar with this dungeon's layout, blind jumps could land him in lethal situations. He dismissed the idea. As for from lie to reality, making fellow players believe his lies seemed impossible. Those entering this dungeon were likely class-changed veterans. Getting them to trust him? A miracle if they didn't try killing him first. But one group could be manipulated. The stream viewers must have a decent audience by now, Bai Liang mused, a sly grin forming. After his previous dungeon feats, viewers surely flocked to his stream. Could their belief in this eranked world influence reality here? If not, this approach failed. If yes, this dungeon just became trivial. Worth testing regardless. Clang, clang, clang. A shrill whistle pierced every cell. Bai Liang's eyes snapped open. At the door's gap, he watched guards march down the corridor with batons. They carried stacks of books, tossing one into each cell while barking orders. Soon, they reached Bai Liang's cell. Their words finally clarified. New fish? Prison rules memorize inspection in 3 days. But Bai Liang overheard something else. This one's got a split skill. Watch closely, don't let him escape. The whisper was faint, yet audible. What? Guards could see player skills? Impossible? Bai Liang's eyes narrowed. NPC guards shouldn't possess such abilities beyond enforcing rules. Unless realization struck. These weren't NPCs. They were players, one with a skill to detect others' abilities, likely granted to balance faction numbers. Teams with fewer members often received buffs. Trouble multiplied. Bai Liang's smirk vanished. His skill just became nearly useless. The guards arrived at his cell. A book thudded onto the floor. As Bai Liang caught it, the skill-sensing guard's eyes bulged. His expression blended confusion, shock, and disbelief. How? Who'd get such a ridiculous skill? The other guards, noticing their colleague's expression, immediately turned their attention to him. What happened? What did you see that shocked you so much? One guard asked. No, he. The guard struggled to articulate his thoughts, glancing at Bai Liang and then back at the others. After a long silence, he finally spoke in a grave tone. This man's skill is from lie to reality. If someone believes his lies, they become truth. The skill sounded utterly absurd. If they hadn't known about this ability, how could they possibly defeat him in this dungeon? There were countless ways to make people believe lies. It would be impossible to discern what was real and what was fabricated. The scariest part? Mixing truth with lies, making disbelief impossible even if one tried. What? Turning lies into reality. The other guards' eyes widened in shock as they stared at Bai Liang. That's too broken? How does a skill like that even exist? Good thing we found out. If this guy were smarter, we'd all be doomed. How do we counter it? This skill feels unbeatable. As Bai Liang had suspected, these guards were also players. Their task was to prevent prisoners from escaping the prison. Initially, they'd thought the dungeon's difficulty was low. But now, faced with Bai Liang's skill, a sense of dread crept in. This ability was terrifying. Unrestricted, it could make him invincible. It's actually simple. One guard suddenly grinned, explaining to the others, if everyone knows about his skill, no one will believe his words, rendering it useless. The others brightened immediately. Right? Once everyone's aware, his power crumbles. Huh? Why didn't I think of that? Just announce it over the intercom. Turns out this unstoppable skill has a glaring weakness. Relieved, the guards resumed their duties, ignoring Bai Liang. Bai Liang watched them leave, his expression calm as still water. Their solution was exactly what he'd anticipated, and it didn't concern him. His real test was whether this skill could leverage his stream audience. Interesting, and mildly thrilling, Bai Liang murmured, a faint smile playing on his lips. The stream chat erupted. How is Bai Shen still smiling? His skill's been exposed. Yeah, now that we know, we'll doubt everything he says. Wait, what if he wanted us to see this? To trick us into doubting the truth? Oh god, can his skill affect reality through us viewers? I am so confused. Skill exposure was a death sentence for most players, like revealing your trump card. Yet Bai Liang seemed unbothered. He glanced at the book in his hand titled Rules for Criminals, then stashed it in his inventory. Another identical book materialized in his grip. Wait, 2 copies? What's the trick here? Is this like Winnie's pen from Fifth Estate? An illusion item? Someone explain? I've run this dungeon, those rules are legit. My brain's overheating. Bai Liang opened the first book and read aloud. Rule 1, distinguish day from night. When corridor lights dim, remain silent. Rule 2, never look back at corners, nor gaze upward. Rule 3, monitor your reflection. If it vanishes, run until it reappears. Rule 4, if escaping, and encountering your double, declare yourself the true criminal. Rule 5, trust no one. Rule 6, exit during allocated times. If lights flicker, return to your cell immediately. Rule 7, avoid windows at all costs. He recited all 7 rules with solemn focus, as though memorizing each word. Then he produced the second book containing identical text. The chat exploded. Both books are the same, but the walkthrough says these are the real rules. What's his game? This makes no sense. Is he trying to gaslight us into doubting genuine rules? Bai Liang closed the books, his smile turning cryptic. So this is how it works. Turning lies into reality, even when the liar doesn't exist. With a single statement, Bai Liang practically overheated the viewer's processors. What does this mean? So Bai Liang can fabricate a person and force others to believe his lie. Fabricating a person, meaning this person doesn't actually exist but still satisfies the skill's conditions. I can't wrap my head around it. Can an imaginary person even count as a person? Well, why not? Don't let Bai Liang confuse you? He's probably trying to trick us with wordplay. Phew, good thing I didn't fall for it. Almost got caught in his trap. Admittedly, some viewers were sharp enough. After hearing Bai Liang explain his skill, they realized every word he spoke could be a lie, but was it actually a lie? At that moment, a voice echoed through the prison's speakers. Attention! Prisoner in cell number 920 possesses the skill from lie to reality. He can transform falsehoods into truth. Do not believe a single word he says. Attention! The broadcast reverberated throughout the facility, reaching every inmate. Yet many met the warning with skepticism. From lie to reality? Impossible. Do skills that bizarre even exist? Cell number 920? That guy's been outed. His skill's useless now, right? This dungeon's difficulty's way over the top. 7 rules already, and more coming? Ugh. Who cares about his skill? Now that it's exposed, it's irrelevant. He's as good as dead. In his cell, Bai Liang tilted his head upward. His calm, icy smile faded into blank neutrality, his gaze steady as still water. He glanced at his prison uniform, waved a hand, and swapped it for his default outfit from inventory. The orange jumpsuit was too hideous he'd stick to his usual attire. As for the chains, his universal key slipped into his palm, unlocking them with a click. Though this key had one use left, Bai Liang had spares in his backpack. Knock knock? The sound of metal clanging came from the cell opposite. Bai Liang turned to see a player standing at the bars, a man in his 30s with a butterfly-shaped scar on his left cheek and wolf-like eyes glinting with calculation. Eyes are windows to the soul, but when they reveal nothing, danger lurks. Bai Liang himself was such a man. The scarred man waved. Bai Liang raised an eyebrow and approached. Kid, you're the one from the broadcast, right? The man smirked, cunning flashing in his eyes. Bai Liang scanned him, armor-clad, chains already removed. Yes, Bai Liang nodded. Cell numbers were clear, number 919 opposite, number 920 his own. Your skill's useless now, join me. The man grinned. I bought a guide, know all this dungeon's rules. Can't promise much else, but follow my lead, and clearing this'll be easy. How's that sound? He added, not free, though. Pay 1,000 rule points, and I'll carry you. Name's Ren Yuanwei. Check public chats, I'm a reputable carry. He thumped his beast-shaped armor proudly. Bai Liang remained silent, icy stare unflinching. When Ren finished, he finally spoke. How do you know my skill's useless? Ren frowned. It's exposed. Nobody'll believe you now. Doesn't that nullify it? Bai Liang nodded. True, but you've forgotten something crucial. What? Ren narrowed his eyes. To make people believe me, I don't need to lie. Bai Liang smiled faintly, studying Ren like prey. If it's not a lie, how'll your skill work? Ren scoffed. Want a demonstration? Bai Liang glanced idly at the ceiling. Ren's instincts prickled, but he nodded. Sure. Show me? Perfect. Bai Liang locked eyes with him. I say I can kill you. Do you believe it? Ren's wolfish gaze hardened. Seeing Bai Liang's seriousness, he burst into laughter. Elsewhere, maybe. Before your skill leaked, maybe. But now? No. He wasn't stupid. From lie to reality required belief in lies. Why would he believe Bai Liang could kill him? You disbelieve because of my skill, yes. Bai Liang's smile deepened. But there's one person I can deceive who'll absolutely believe me. Ren blinked. Who? No one else is here. If I don't believe, no one does. The cells were meters apart, only their enhanced senses allowed conversation. Myself. Bai Liang's voice dropped. I can lie to myself. If I believe my own words, the skill activates. Bai Liang's voice, like a demon's whisper, echoed in Ren Yuanwei's mind. His pupils constricted sharply, and he instinctively stepped back. Impossible? You said it was a lie yourself, how can you deceive your own mind? Ren shook his head frantically, feeling his scalp prickle. A sliver of belief had slipped into his soul, but he crushed it ruthlessly, chanting internally that none of this could be true, it was all lies. As a seasoned seeker, his faith was unshakable. A few words wouldn't sway him. Exactly? It's all your trickery, you nearly got me. Clarity returned, and Ren Yuanwei regained his composure, though the trembling corner of his lips betrayed his unease. Cold sweat soaked his back. No wonder this man's skill is from lie to reality. Terrifying. A few words almost trapped even me. Damn, I almost fell for Bai Shen's bluff. Nearly died of fright. He's so convincing I almost believed him. Thank the gods he revealed the truth in time. Never trust a single comma from Bai Shen's mouth. You'll drown in his traps. At this point, I'm too confused to analyze anything. How are you guys still debating? If I stay dumb enough, I can't be tricked. I'll stubbornly believe everything Bai Shen says is lies. The stream chat exploded. Most viewers had nearly been ensnared by Bai Liang's words, understandable, given their labyrinthine ambiguity. Even now, no one could confirm what was true. What if Bai Liang could deceive himself? You still don't believe me? Bai Liang's smile remained unshaken, as if everything he'd said were fact. Ren Yuanwei clung to his judgment. Of course not. Every word you speak is lies, including self-deception. I told you I'll make you believe. Bai Liang sighed theatrically. Ren stayed silent, refusing to engage further. The less he interacted, the safer. If he didn't believe, the words held no power. Or so he thought until Bai Liang vanished from his cell. One moment he stood there, the next, gone without a trace. Huh? Where is he? Ren's eyes bulged as he stared at the empty cell. A hand materialized on his shoulder. Looking for me. Bai Lian's voice purred in his ear. What the hell? Ren Yuanwei jerked backward, steel claws flashing from his backpack as he pressed into the corner. His wide eyes locked onto Bai Lian, now lounging casually in the center of the cell. Terror contorted his face. How did you get here? The man moved like a ghost, vanishing, reappearing, defying logic. Bai Lian smirked, relishing Ren's panic. Their dynamic had flipped. Bai Lian the predator, Ren the prey. I said I could kill you. You didn't believe me. I also said I can deceive myself. If I believe the lie, the skill activates. Bai Lian tilted his head, eyes glinting. I now possess teleportation. I can be anywhere instantly. And yes, I can kill you. Ren's grip on his claws trembled. Teleportation? Murder? Was this truly self-deception? He fought to reject it, but the evidence taunted him. The most convincing lies are 99% truth. Bai Lian's actions had tipped the scales. A bead of sweat slid down Ren's temple. And no, this isn't real. You're manipulating illusions. Rationality clawed back. From lie to reality was too potent. Who could separate truth from fiction? Maybe Bai Lian had innate teleportation skills, unrelated to his declared ability. This was all a mind game? Clap, clap, clap. Bai Lian applauded slowly. Impressive. Few retain such clarity under pressure. I admit you've got the chops to lead a team. But, his smile sharpened. Did you overlook one tiny detail? Ren's brief pride evaporated as a violet eye materialized above Bai Lian pupilless, radiating annihilation. What if I can kill you, and you still refuse to believe? Ren Yuanwei. Completion rewards, rule points, title, perfect escape, combat skill book 1. What is a real lie? A real lie is when elements of truth are woven into an ostensibly false narrative. When something blatantly untrue is spoken aloud, rearranging the sequence of events can make it perceived as truth. For example, Bai Lian retrieving the Book of Illusions and writing a story within it that part truly happened. But everything in that story was fabricated by Bai Lian. None of it occurred, it was merely fiction. Yet, by first presenting the story and later revealing that Bai Lian authored it, all prior events are retroactively accepted as reality. When did everything become a lie? Bai Lian stored the Book of Illusions, his lips curling into a faint smirk. Had the shift happened when he learned to transform lies into truth? When he retrieved the Book of Illusions? Or when the prison guard appeared? Or, had it all been an illusion from the start? Even Bai Lian couldn't fully untangle it, but one fact remained. He had cleared the dungeon, and that was undeniable. Player, Bai Lian, exiting the dungeon in 30 seconds. Prepare. 30, 29, 28. When the dungeon completion alert echoed in the minds of all players trapped in the endless prison, they froze. Someone cleared the dungeon in 10 minutes? And got an SSS rating? Are you kidding me? Impossible? The endless prison is a D-rank dungeon. Even top-tier players need at least 5 days to clear it. How could someone finish it in 10 minutes with the highest rating? Bai Lian, that name sounds familiar. Wait, isn't he the guy spamming the global chat earlier? No way. This guy was in an E-rank dungeon just days ago. How'd he jump to D-rank? Did he speedrun his class upgrade? The prison guards were stunned. The inmates were baffled. They just entered the dungeon, still figuring out their next move, and now they're told someone cleared it in 10 minutes? How was that even possible? No one believed it, yet the system notification proved it true. Someone had performed a miracle, achieving a flawless SSS clear in record time. Meanwhile, in Bai Lian's livestream, viewers were equally confounded. They'd barely received the stream notification before witnessing Bai Lian effortlessly complete the dungeon. But when the completion prompt appeared, the screen flickered, returning to the prison cell. Bai Lian held a pen, writing the final character in the Book of Illusions. Everything that transpired had been recorded in the book. The dungeon itself had remained unchanged. My brain's overheating. I don't get it. What just happened? So Bai Shan actually has the power to turn lies into reality? Was everything we saw just his illusion? WTF? When did we even enter the illusion? Wait, maybe when Bai Shan said he could deceive even illusory people, he'd already fabricated everything. He used that item to create illusions and then tricked them. No, he tricked not just the illusions but us too, and the other players. This is too convoluted. All I know is Bai Shan really cleared the dungeon, right? Their minds spiraled in confusion, but one truth crystallized. They'd all been deceived. Because Bai Lian had truly cleared the dungeon? Folks, Bai Shan's diving into another dungeon. No rest for the legendary. He's a grind lord among grind lords. Mi Gao, as usual, hosted Bai Lian's stream. His commentary remained wildly popular, thanks to his sharp insights and occasional theatrics. Since covering Bai Lian, his viewer engagement had skyrocketed. Bai Shan's already entered the dungeon. Let's see which one it is. Judging by the environment, this looks like the endless prison. A C-rank dungeon? Did Bai Shan leapfrog to this tier already? Wonder what random skill he'll manifest this time. Mi Gao rambled non-stop, his curiosity piqued by Bai Lian's evolving abilities. turn lies into reality sounds absurd at first, but since it's Bai Shen, it somehow makes sense. But now that his skill's exposed, its effectiveness is neutered. What'll he do? When the guard revealed Bai Lian's skill, Mi Gao frowned. The skill thrived on secrecy. Once exposed, its power dwindled. Let's keep watching. I'm sure Bai Shen has a backup plan. Even if this skill fails, he's got others. On screen, Bai Lian procured 2 prisoner rulebooks, tamed Ren Yuanwei, rallied other players, and cleared the dungeon. Mi Gao grinned smugly. See, a minor setback won't stop Bai Shen. But his voice choked mid-sentence. The screen flickered back to the prison cell. Bai Lian, holding the Book of Illusions, penned the final character. Mi Gao's smile froze. His pupils constricted in terror as he stared at Bai Lian's placid smirk. What the actual? His mind short-circuit. A total plot twist. His chat exploded with WTFs and confusion. Everyone gaped at the pale-faced youth whose gaze felt utterly inhuman. After a moment, Mi Gao clutched his head, muttering, I think I get it, or maybe I don't. So everything we saw was a lie? The whole clearing the dungeon was just us being gaslit into believing it. Even the guard exposing his skill was part of the act to make the lie more believable. Holy shit, who dares call Bai Lian a cheater now? I'll fight them. He hastily saved the clip, ready to upload this mind-bending moment to the Mysterious World Highlights forum. This surreal play would go viral for sure. Meanwhile, Bai Lian returned to the player space. It was time to collect his loans, with interest. Everything plunged into darkness, but a moment later, Bai Lian found himself in the player space. He opened his attribute panel and glanced at it. His rule points had been restored to over 25,000. Of these, 5,000 were unborrowed, while 20,000 were the dungeon clearance reward. A D-rank dungeon reward is 20,000 points. Seems like higher-tier dungeons yield more. I wonder how much harder dungeons pay. Bai Lian rested his chin on his hand, staring at his rule points, lost in thought. If E-rank gives 10,000 and D-rank 20,000, then C-rank should be 30,000, right? Going further, if there's an SSS rank dungeon, clearing it might grant 80,000 points? But assumptions are risky. After all, clearing a beginner dungeon with an S rating only gives 100 rule points. A-rank and higher dungeons remain inaccessible to players, their mechanics unknown. Perhaps they offer unique rewards? Shaking his head, Bai Lian dismissed the speculation and opened his new title. Title, Perfect Escape, Unequipped, Attribute Bonus 20%, Effect 50%. Acquisition, players who achieve an SSS rating in clearing the Endless Prison Dungeon receive this title. Title effect, all forms of control physical, mental, or otherwise can be broken. Usable twice per dungeon. Immunity to all control effects. This meant no future restraints could bind him. Admiring the title's power, Bai Lian grinned. This was invaluable. Now, mental manipulators couldn't touch him. It's worth noting that some players specialize in psychic classes, capable of dominating others' minds. Previously, Bai Lian lacked countermeasures. While his Dead World domain negated such threats, he hadn't faced such opponents yet. This title erased his sole weakness. He didn't equip it yet. The halved effect would reduce its uses to 1, diminishing its impact. Next, he retrieved the dungeon's final reward, a combat skill book. Use. Bai Lian held the skill book and activated it without hesitation. Combat skills significantly boost strength, like his prior hand-to-hand mastery. Though his Dead Eye ability made close combat rare, it wasn't obsolete. Some dungeons might restrict class skills, forcing reliance on raw prowess. As they say, more skills mean more insurance. Mastery of all weapons. Upon using this book, you gain proficiency with every weapon. Any weapon in your hands becomes lethal and effortless to wield. This skill was exceptional. But I don't own any weapons. Do I need to buy one? The thought soured his mood. Shop prices were astronomical. Basic weapons cost 50,000 rule points. 5 times a skill book's price? How do others afford this? Unless their weapons are dungeon rewards, not shop purchases. That made more sense. But Bai Lian had a better plan. Take them. If I see a weapon I like, I'll just borrow it. No need to be polite like with the hidden seal. Satisfied, he swapped his title to capitalist and opened the portal to the trading center for professionals. A flash of white light later, he stood in his small shop. Set the repayment time to now. He adjusted the loan recall timing. Technically, waiting until borrowers neared death in dungeons would maximize returns, but Bai Lian couldn't wait. Fear of defaulters? Unlikely they'd return eventually. With interest? A win-win. Bai Lian won twice. Meanwhile, in a damp cave dungeon, 2 players tensely faced off, weapons drawn. The standoff shattered when one player's knife and armor suddenly vanished. Staring at his empty hands, he panicked. Where's my knife? Where's my armor? Frantic, he checked his inventory empty. Even his rule points were gone. What the who stole my stuff? This player lost everything? He had just entered the dungeon barely 10 minutes ago. Now, all his items and rule points were gone. Only his shorts remained? What the hell? He was utterly bewildered, as if everything had reset to his first day in the mysterious world. Fortunately, he still had his class. Otherwise, fighting other players without gear would have meant certain death. But things weren't so simple. Just as he tried to activate his class, an overwhelming force suddenly engulfed him. The next moment, his class abilities vanished, and a class change book materialized before his stunned eyes. Before he could process it, the book too disappeared. He was left with absolutely nothing. Nuo. A soul-rending scream echoed through the dungeon. Those who heard it pitied him, those who saw it fought back tears. Meanwhile, at the Class Exchange Trading Center, in the Conscience Store, Bai Liang smiled at the additional 100,000 rule points now in his account. Truthfully, factoring in the 9 out of 13 interest system, there should have been around 800 more points. But some professionals couldn't exchange enough items to cover the full debt. Even if he seized everything, a small fraction would remain unrecovered. But Bai Liang was easy to please. 10,000 points were more than enough. Time to issue more loans. No harm done. The Conscience Store reopened. The first customer was a middle-aged man in an expensive silver protective suit, his face unshaven. "Boss, I heard you sell class change books here," he asked, his eyes immediately locking onto the shelf. Hearing he wasn't a loan seeker, Bai Liang slumped back into his chair, unimpressed. "If you want to buy, look around yourself," he said indifferently. After diving into the lucrative loan business, Bai Liang now disdained petty trades like these mouse legs and fly feet. The man wasn't bothered by Bai Liang's apathy. It seemed normal for a high-tier player. Anyone stocking so many class change books clearly wasn't ordinary. Soon, he selected 20 B-tier class change books, paid 20,000 rule points at market price, and left. Not long after, a second customer arrived. "Boss, I want a loan," said a sly-faced young man, rubbing his hands with a grin. Bai Liang's demeanor flipped 180 degrees. "How much?" he asked cheerfully. First, what's the repayment period?" The youth hesitated. "Do I need a contract or collateral?" "No deadline. Just repay within the year," Bai Liang replied warmly. "We operate on trust. No contracts or collateral needed. Plus, we've issued many loans, and no one has complained. But what if borrowers die in a dungeon? The debt vanishes, right?" The youth frowned. Loans weren't new, but the risk was immense. Dead borrowers couldn't repay. All business has risks. Bai Liang shrugged. "Want profit? Accept risk. If they die, that's their fate. I considered all this before opening. Otherwise, why bother?" He sighed theatrically. "Truthfully, I'm not here for profit. The risks outweigh the gains. I just want to help fellow players. We all know the struggle of lacking rule points." The young man thumbed up. "Respect, boss. May your business thrive and debts repaid." "Let's hope so." Bai Liang grinned, waving him off. The youth borrowed 20,000 rule points, promising repayment in months if he survived. "Don't stress. Just stay alive out there." Bai Liang smiled brighter than ever. Customer after customer followed. The herd mentality took over, seeing others gain. They wanted their share. In total, Bai Liang loaned 120,000 rule points. When repaid, that's 170,000. He smirked, watching players think they'd outsmarted him. Closing shop, he returned to his player space. If not for needing dungeon clears to unlock higher tiers, he'd have stayed. But secrets never last. Smart players would expose his scheme eventually. Best to profit while he could. Back in his space, Bai Liang queued for a dungeon. Matching in progress. Match found. Waiting for players, 36/50. 50/50. Entering dungeon soon. Prepare. As the prompt ended, flames engulfed Bai Liang's surroundings, tiny embers swelling into an inferno. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Through the fire, a colossal train charged toward him. Rusted and roaring like thunder, it shook his eardrums. "Dear passengers, welcome aboard the greatest train of the century. Departing from City H, arriving at City J. Our crew is honored to serve you. Attendants will patrol periodically. We hope you enjoy an unforgettable journey. Approaching the longest tunnel. Please remain calm, close curtains, and do not look outside." The announcer's voice gradually faded as the train moved forward. The train of the century resembled a wild steed galloping through flames, charging at a frenetic pace. The fire wasn't hot, the flames merely brushed the tips of Bai Liang's hair, leaving him unharmed. Gradually, the color of the fire shifted from dark to light, splitting into smaller tongues that dwindled into faint sparks. As the sparks vanished, darkness engulfed everything. Bai Liang observed calmly. Suddenly, the distant train, now reduced to a tiny black speck, began pulling him inward, as though he were being sucked into it. Chaotic scenes flashed before his eyes. When everything stabilized, he found himself seated inside a train car. The rumble of the train, powerful and crisp, filled his ears. Bai Liang sat by the window, the curtains drawn tight, blocking all light. Clearly, he had already entered the dungeon. The train of the century. Bai Liang muttered softly, lifting his gaze to survey the car. At first glance, the atmosphere felt ancient, weathered by time. The car appeared both old and worn, the wall's paint had faded, leaving behind stains and peeling patches. The dim lighting plunged the space into semi-darkness, amplifying its eerie, sinister aura. This car lived up to its title as the largest train of the century. The interior was alarmingly spacious. From what Bai Liang could see, there were hundreds of seats. But not all were occupied. Observing the passengers, Bai Liang frowned slightly. Something felt off. Their clothing wasn't just outdated, it belonged to entirely different eras. Some even wore ancient attire, as though they hailed from disparate timelines. Their expressions were equally peculiar. Some stared blankly at fixed points, while others watched fellow passengers with hollow eyes. Bai Liang scanned for other players but found none. It seemed he was the only one in the car. If so, this train was far larger than he'd imagined, likely spanning over 50 cars. Averting his gaze, Bai Liang ceased his observations. Zzzt? A crackle of electricity sounded from the front of the train, followed by the same broadcast voice he'd heard upon entering the dungeon. Bai Liang listened closely. Dear passengers, good day. Please adhere to the following rules during your journey. Failure to comply will result in consequences at your own risk. 1. This train consists of 55 cars divided by function: standard cars, entertainment cars, children's cars, sleeper cars, lounge cars, livestock cars, cargo cars, staff cars, and so on. With the exception of passengers, items from other cars will not appear in this one. 2. Standard cars have only one aisle, accessible solely to passengers. If you encounter two aisles or witness children or cargo from other cars, immediately exit and inform the conductor. 3. The entertainment car contains no attractions related to trains. Please remain vigilant. 4. The vending machines in the children's car no longer sell food. 5. No music will play in the sleeper car. If you hear music, cover your ears at once. You may retrieve the source of the music but must surrender it to the conductor within 24 hours and ensure proper disposal. 6. The lounge car has no mirrors. If you see a mirror, shatter it and thoroughly clean the debris. 7. The livestock car transports only herbivores, which never leave their cages. If you spot an animal outside its cage, maintain your expression and treat it as invisible. Once it leaves your sight, immediately summon the conductor. 8. The cargo car contains no animals, conductors, or children. If you encounter any, close your eyes and avoid interaction until they depart. 9. Conductors on this train wear only blue uniforms. If you see a conductor in black, do not engage, regardless of their instructions. 10. Memorize the number of every car you pass through, especially the conductor's car and your assigned seat. When moving between cars, pay close attention to the numbering. Each car connects only to sequentially numbered cars. Adherence to these rules will ensure an ideal journey. We wish you a pleasant trip. The broadcast ended, and silence reclaimed the car. Bai Liang narrowed his eyes. 10 lengthy rules, but for his genetically enhanced mind, memorization posed no challenge. As expected, this dungeon was extraordinarily vast, 55 cars divided into specialized zones. Such scale hinted at formidable difficulty. Most crucially, the victory conditions remained unclear: mere survival, or something more. A new notification interrupted his thoughts. Skill extraction complete. Doubt. You may cast doubt on opponents and seize items or abilities that defy logic. A random skill had arrived. Doubt? Bai Liang's eyes widened, his face flickering with intrigue. This resembles handed over, but seems even stronger. Now he could confiscate abilities deemed illogical. Could he claim them for himself, or merely nullify them? Regardless, the skill's potency would greatly aid his dungeon traversal. Rising from his seat, Bai Liang abandoned passivity. With this skill, though caution remained vital, he needed to uncover the dungeon's objectives. Clues or fellow players might hold the answers. Seat F66, car 15, Bai Liang noted his seat and car number before advancing toward the next car. Above the passage, an LED panel scrolled text. This passage leads to car 16. Transit time, 30 minutes. Remaining, 19 minutes 27 seconds. Bai Liang traversed the lengthy corridor, reaching the junction between cars. Suddenly, he halted, gaze fixed on the floor. A crumpled white note lay there, scrawled with tiny red symbols. The note was palm-sized, crumpled, with crooked writing as if scribbled by a trembling hand. Bai Liang bent to pick it up and began reading each word carefully. Don't sleep in the lounge cars. If you're exhausted, take a short nap, but don't fall into deep sleep. You won't hear the music when it starts. So thirsty, need water? The children's car has none. The vending machine is off. I want to turn it on. My car is number 15. Yes, I remember. My car should be #15. If a conductor in black speaks to you, do not respond or react. You can carry the music box. When it starts following you, play the music, it'll save your life. But no, when passing through corridors, ignore the numbers. Just return to your original car before the number changes. This isn't the train to City J. I want off. I want off. No, the train is still moving. I must return to car 15, sit in my seat, and wait for it to stop. I must return to my seat. I want to leave. Yes, I want to leave. As Bai Liang read the scribbles, his expression grew grave. The note contained substantial information, including rules some conflicting with the broadcast. For example, regarding the music box, the announcement stated it must be surrendered to a conductor within 24 hours, but the note claimed carrying it could counter it. What was it? A hidden threat? Additionally, the note advised ignoring car numbers when moving between them, contradicting the broadcast's emphasis on sequential numbering. Most perplexing was the writer's indecision, desperation to escape versus clinging to their seat. Bai Liang rubbed his temples, organizing his thoughts. For now, following the broadcast rules is safer. The note's claims need verification. As he tucked the note away and turned toward car 16, a glass-like dome suddenly encased him. Tap, tap, tap. Light footsteps echoed. Bai Liang turned to see a man emerge from the shadows, leather jacket, black armor, spiked hair, a scar over his left eye, and a crimson mole at his lips corner. Triangular talismans flickered in his hands. The man smirked, radiating smugness. I planned to wait until you left, but luck's on your side, finding a clue without even exiting the car. He halted his talisman throwing and adjusted his hair. Hand it over. We're both players. You know the stakes. Bai Liang hadn't noticed the man earlier, either hidden by stealth talismans or beneath a seat. His methods were refined, far beyond average players. Bai Liang eyed the glass dome. What is this? You don't know restriction talismans. The man arched a brow, incredulous. Such tools were basic for seasoned players. Ah, restriction talismans. Got it. Bai Liang nodded. One of his titles allowed him to bypass restraints. He activated it. To the man's shock, Bai Liang phased through the dome as if it were mist. You. The man gaped but swiftly tore another talisman. A new dome trapped Bai Liang. Smirking, he brandished a curved knife. Think you'll escape again? I've got talismans to spare. He lunged. Wait. Bai Liang frowned. Why do you have restriction talismans and I don't? Absurd. The man paused, baffled. What? And you've got a weapon while I'm empty-handed? Ridiculous. The man glanced at his knife, then at Bai Liang's bare hands. So, I'm smart. You're not. Where's the absurdity? He raised the blade. And froze. The knife vanished. Where's my knife? What the hell? Just a second ago, the knife had been in his hands, but now it was gone. The man stared at his empty palms, confusion etched across his face. Suddenly, he caught a glimpse of Bai Liang still restrained holding a curved blade. Squinting, he realized it was his knife. But that wasn't all. Bai Liang's hands also clutched 3 restriction seals. Impossible. Panic surged through the man. A terrible premonition gripped him as he frantically checked his inventory. Just as he feared, the 3 restriction seals were missing. You. He whirled toward Bai Liang, his face twisted with disbelief. How? The knife had been in his grip, and Bai Liang was trapped inside a glass cell. How had he stolen it? Even if the knife could be snatched somehow, the restriction seals had been in his player inventory. How had Bai Liang accessed it? This defied all logic. The knife isn't an issue, and the restriction seals are manageable too. Bai Liang inspected the items with satisfaction before locking eyes with the man. What are you planning? The man tensed under Bai Liang's eerie gaze. Planning. Bai Liang smirked, stowing the knife and seals into his own inventory. Seems like you've hoarded too many rule points. Don't you think that's excessive? No. The man's pupils constricted as he checked his rule points balance. Rule points, 0. Gone. My rule points, he screamed, eyes bloodshot. Give them back? Return my items. Rule points were a player's lifeline. Not to mention the items each one had cost him blood and sweat to acquire. And now, in a single night, everything had vanished. In Bai Liang's livestream chat. LMAO, this guy was so cocky earlier. Serves him right. Bro really thought he could out-scheme Bai Shen? Delusional. What even is Bai Shen's skill? It's like that Crimson Knight raid all over again. Why you, have no shame. The man collapsed to his knees, voice breaking. Bai Liang paused his looting, feigned solemnity, and said, apologies for my haste. The chat erupted. Bai Shen apologized? The sun's rising from the west today. Don't fall for it, he's 100% trolling. The man stared blankly, rage simmering beneath his despair. He opened his mouth to demand justice. I've apologized, Bai Liang cut in, smile fading. Now it's your turn to say no hard feelings. Say it. A violet beam erupted from Bai Liang's eyes, shattering the man's defenses. He stepped forward, looming over the broken player. A high-quality player, Bai Liang said coldly, knows to accept apologies gracefully. The man shuddered. At this moment, he'd give anything to escape this dungeon and never cross paths with this demon again. Ha ha ha, laughing so hard I almost pissed myself. Bai Shen, have you listened to the nonsense you're spouting? My face is twisted from laughter. Brilliant, the perpetrator's already forgiven the victim. Bai Shen, I've already apologized. You have to say it's fine. That's the rule. Don't be so arrogant. Exactly? If you say it's fine, everything's settled. But look how you ruined it. You even emptied his backpack. Bai Shen, you're taking things too far. You. The man stared at Bai Liang, his face pale, Adam's apple bobbing. A flicker of hope flashed in his terrified eyes. I'm telling you, I'm a member of the Professionals Association. If you kill me, the association will hunt you down. He clung to this lifeline, his expression brightening. When players clashed over loot, it usually ended in bloodshed. But if you had a powerful faction backing you, even a weakling could escape death at least temporarily. Large factions held terrifying influence. Kill one of their members, and others would pursue you relentlessly. No one knew how they tracked perpetrators. Some speculated they used special artifacts to glimpse a member's final moments. But Bai Liang didn't react. Professionals Association? Not even Grandma Liang's Hisheo could save you now. The man's eyes widened in panic. Bai Liang lowered his raised foot. The man's hope surged. Maybe this stone-hearted killer had a soft spot? Then he saw the violet eye. Sizzle. An annihilation beam pierced his skull, erasing his 2 remaining lives. Pity. That profession, Bai Liang sighed, staring at the corpse. He'd tested this before. Stolen skills couldn't be converted into class transfer books. A true shame. As he turned to leave car 15, he froze. The passengers' living corpses with hollow eyes were all watching him. Under the dim lights, their gaunt faces and black-curtained windows fused into a sinister tableau. Crack. Bai Liang's dead eye obliterated a nearby passenger's head. The others snapped back to their lifeless state. Much better. Smiling, he moved toward the intercar door. Car 16 was pitch black, his enhanced vision limited to 4 meters. Unnatural darkness. A cobblestone path emerged, flanked by vines and strange trees. The sound of trickling water echoed. What kind of carriage was this? Click. His footsteps shattered the silence. A skeletal figure leaned against a tree ahead. Female, wearing intact jeans and a t-shirt, dead only a few years. Bai Liang spotted a bulge in her pelvis. Reaching in, he retrieved a crumpled, stained paper. A rustle, the paper vanished. A woman in black combat gear stood before him, peach blossom eyes gleaming. She waved the note. Thanks.
Hello, everyone. As we wrap up this video, I want to share a quick note. I have a Patreon account. If you'd like to support me and enjoy on-demand audiobooks, you can become a Patreon member. Alternatively, you can check out my Google Drive link, which has 500+ novel audiobooks available through my Ko-fi or Patreon shop. I appreciate your support.